How to Spot Lies and Deception, excerpted from the book The Art of Urban Survival. Genetic capacities for deception have evolved through natural selection. In conflicts between predator and prey, in struggles over scarce resources, deception confers a selective advantage. For hundreds of generations, the less cunning have left behind fewer offspring, and deceptive qualities have come to dominate the gene pool. From Bond, Collar, and Pagliucelli, from the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology. Deception is one of the fundamental strategies of nature. From camouflage to impersonation, the ability to deceive has been an advantage to survival. Modern man has taken this lesson to heart. Our ability to deceive has outstripped our ability to detect deception, which gives liars the advantage. The best defense against liars is to be able to tell when they are lying. Unfortunately, there is no foolproof method of doing so. Even a polygraph or lie detector is far from accurate. But by understanding the principles behind the polygraph, we can get a better understanding of why it is so difficult to discern truth from fiction. A polygraph uses sensors to record 4 physiological reactions and transcribe that information in the form of a graph. The reactions monitored are respiration, heart rate, blood pressure, and skin resistance. The theory is that when a person is lying, he or she will inwardly feel anxiety, guilt, and fear, which will in turn trigger an increase in respiration, heart rate, blood pressure, and skin perspiration, known as the galvanic skin response. However, there are 3 situations where lie detectors fail to give an accurate assessment. First, many, if not most people, become anxious when being questioned or interrogated. Their anxiety may be misread as lying, when in fact it is fear of not being believed. This is known as the Othello effect. The readings indicate fear rather than guilt. While professional interviews are aware of this and adjust their methods to compensate, it is nevertheless more art than science, hence the polygraph's limited viability in the judicial system. Second, lie detectors don't work on psychopaths. Without a conscience, there is no guilt and no anxiety that would cause physiological changes. It is natural for normal people to feel some anxiety when being questioned. Therefore, it is the confident and smooth answers that should raise warning flags. Thirdly, a lie detector cannot tell what is true or false, but only what a person believes is true or false. If a person believes he or she is telling the truth, even if it is false, the detector will still indicate that the person was being truthful. There is truth in the saying, the best liars are those that believe their own lies. In addition, a person can learn to control those physiological reactions that a polygraph monitors through simple biofeedback exercises. Even a person with a conscience can be easily trained to pass a polygraph. Keeping the above drawbacks in mind, one can duplicate some of the information gathered by mechanical lie detectors through careful observation. Remember that these observations are of discomfort, fear, and doubt, reactions that may or may not be caused by guilt. No one indicator is sufficient to base a judgment on. You must observe the overall behavior and responses, test the logic, and base judgment on your own experience. Nonverbal clues to deception. One can lie with the mouth, but with the accompanying grimace, one nevertheless tells the truth. from Friedrich Nietzsche. Thus spake Zarathustra. Nonverbal clues include movements and gestures that may indicate an inner conflict. Known as body language and nonverbal communication, knowledge of man's peculiar physical quirks have been around for ages. In the martial arts, body language that reveals an opponent's next move is called telegraphing. In gambling, a gesture that reveals whether a person is bluffing or not is known as a tell. The following lists common ways in which people's gestures may reveal deception. The eyes. One way in which the person reveals inner emotions are through pupil dilation. The eye's pupils control the amount of light that passes through the lens of the eye by contracting under bright lighting conditions and dilating under low. Pupil dilation is also an indication of increased brain processing. The brain processes more information when thinking over a problem and when aroused or excited. This is why dilated pupils are thought to show desire. Pupil dilation is also an indicator when a person is lying. This is because lying is a more complex process than telling the truth. To tell the truth is simply memory recall, while lying requires both memory of the truth and memory of the lie used to cover the truth. As lies multiply, the process becomes more and more complex. As a result, the pupils tend to dilate more when someone is lying. Along with dilation, a person's blink rate will also increase when excited or aroused by visual stimuli. Blink rate is the number of times the eyes blink in a minute. When excited, blinking increases. When viewing unpleasant material and when concentrating, the blink rate slows down, and staring occurs more often. Examples can be found in the flirtatious batting of the eyes and in the horrific stares of victims of violence. Increased blink rate during questioning may indicate the topic is creating anxiety. The final clue the eyes reveal is one that all mothers seem to know, that when hiding something, one tends to avoid eye contact. However, this clue is so universally known that professional liars know to look you straight in the eye every time they lie. Because this indicator is so universally faked, it is a suspect gesture. If someone looks you in the eye and tells you something that still does not feel right, it probably is not. Hand gestures. Man's first form of communication was probably a hand language based on the simple gestures the hands make when performing specific functions. For example, holding one hand palm up under the mouth while scooping towards the mouth with the other hand is universally recognized as the symbol for eating. Travelers, immigrants, and tourists still use hand gestures when no one can speak the same language. This language is so embedded in our psyches that even when speaking, our bodies echo our verbal language with accompanying gestures. While the mouth can lie, the body seldom does. Subconsciously, we sense that if we use our hands when lying, their actions may not fit our words, and so the use of hand gestures decreases when someone is lying. Another common gesture using the hands that may indicate lying is a touching of the mouth or face. The hand begins moving towards the mouth as if subconsciously they want to stop the lie from being spoken. Since this is too obvious, the hand is redirected to the cheeks, chin, eyes, or forehead. The closer the hand comes to the mouth, the greater the lie. Body gestures. When a person is lying, they tend to increase their use of shrug gestures and raised eyebrows. Using this gesture as a way of saying, "I don't know," or "it has nothing to do with me." And this is an attempt to distance themselves from the lies they are telling. The shrug is always a negative gesture to what the person is saying. Another indicator of lying is a restless shifting or squirming as though the body wanted to escape. Most people control this urge to move, but even still, the body will tend to make subtle movements. The restless tapping of a foot, bouncing knee, or a rapping of the fingers on a tabletop are usually indicators that the person is uncomfortable with the subject matter. Voice. Natural speech is more than words alone. It consists of auditory tones, rhythms, and cadences. An indicator of how important rhythm and tone are to communicate can be seen in those suffering from a rare brain disorder known as aphasia. A portion of the brain that processes verbal word meanings is inoperative. As a result, aphasics develop an enhanced ability to detect a feeling tone, which enables them to recognize when someone is lying. While the average person cannot detect the subtle nuances of another's voice like an aphasic, we can listen for certain clues. When under stress, people speak a little higher than normal, and there's a tendency for the voice to break and become raspy. Voice level or volume lowers when saying things the speaker would rather not say. If a person is uncertain or nervous about his answers, he may incorporate a rising question tone in his speech, especially on the last word of each sentence. This tone is similar to the tone used when asking a question, such as who, only less pronounced. Speech patterns change when people lie. There is a tendency not to use contractions. For example, I didn't do it is more believable than I did not do it. The latter is an indication the speech is carefully thought out, rather than flowing spontaneously. Other clues that indicate a person is thinking out his answers are false starts, whereby the person starts with one explanation and suddenly changes to something else, and frequent pauses and stalling vocalizations, the ah and between sentences. Physiological clues. A polygraph measures physiological changes caused by the fear and shame a normal person would feel when lying. Fear triggers the fight or flight response in the sympathetic nervous system, which increases blood pressure, respiration, perspiration, and heart rate. Some of these effects are visible to the careful observer. These include increased breath rate, sweating, blushing, a vein that begins to throb on the face, forehead, or neck, and a trembling in the hands or jaws. Logical clues to deception. When examining information that seems suspicious, look for contradictions in logic, such as time frame, continuity, and probabilities. Contradictions in timeline. Unless you have actually experienced a particular activity or event, it would be unlikely that you would know what timetable that event or activity followed. By questioning other witnesses or experts in that field, you can get an approximate timetable and compare it to that given by the suspect. For example, your teenaged son or daughter says they were at the library until 10, but you find out the library closed at 9. Another mistake in timeline is expanding or contracting time. Either too much occurred in too short a time, or not enough occurred in too long a time. Contradictions in continuity. This is where a person knows something he should not have knowledge of, or does not know something he should. This tactic is used in criminal investigations by keeping secret certain details about a crime. Then, when questioning a suspect, investigators watch to see if he reveals knowledge of such details that only the guilty party would know. Another ancient tactic is to pretend not to know some piece of information that you have already verified and see if the person's answers match the information you know to be true. Contradictions in procedure. Every job and occupation follows rules and procedures. Anyone describing events that are contrary to the standard procedures are likely giving false witness, unless there is a logical reason why those procedures were not being followed. If the enemy is really about to launch an attack, where are the baggage trains? On the other hand, if peace overtures are sincere, why are they mobilizing troops on the border? The most obvious flaw in logic is when something is too good to be true, the solution too easy, and the answer too simple. Age and experience teach that nothing worthwhile is easy or simple. Behavioral clues to deception. The longer the explanation, the bigger the lie. From a Chinese proverb. When someone is accused of misdeed, there are three possible responses: redirection, confrontation, and examination. Redirection. If a person's initial response to an accusation is to blame someone else, he or she is either immature or has a guilty conscience. This is the tactic children use when accused of a misdeed. It wasn't me, it was Timmy. A variation is to insist that because some other parties are involved or committed similar transgressions, therefore the individual's guilt is absolved. Another form of redirection is to mock assistance in finding the true culprit by proposing alternate theories and scenarios. Confrontation. When the accused responds with indignation and countercharges, it may be genuine, or a ruse to draw attention away from the accusation and place the focus onto the accusers. This is a common strategy used by defense lawyers whom, rather than dwell on the question of their client's innocence, attack the methods and motivations of the accusers. Investigation. When wrongly accused, innocent people are interested in exposing the truth because the truth is obviously on their side. They will want to examine details since, by careful investigation, the truth of their innocence is revealed. The guilty, however, would prefer to gloss over the details and to try and block any investigation. More often, the guilty are revealed through their cover-up of evidence rather than the actual evidence itself. Learning to apply these simple observations to the people you are dealing with will not allow you to spot all deceptions, but it should be able to raise a red flag when something is suspicious.